Right, good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the fourth session in our diploma series. We are really glad you're here. We have some special guests that we'll be introducing here in a minute, but we will be talking about the Enlistment Readiness Seal today. We have our first session started with just kind of a general overview about the diploma changes. So if you missed that one, you might want to go back and revisit that. That was with the Department of Education. Michelle Clark joined us for that one. Our second session in the series was regarding enrollment. And then we had our last session was on employment. And then, of course, like I said, this is our last one. It will be recorded. So if you have to jump off early for any reason or get interrupted, you will be able to go back and watch this on demand later on. I'm going to go ahead and introduce all of our fabulous speakers from today. We have a team from Indiana Online, which is with the Central Indiana Educational Service Center. We have Kim Hendrick. She's the director of Indiana Online. Laura Garmire is the Indiana Online Instructional Design and Curriculum Manager. And Melissa Bardack is the Indiana Online Instructional Leadership Manager. And they may say some more about themselves as they begin. And then we are welcoming also from the Indiana Army National Guard, we have First Lieutenant Ryann Laky, Plans and Outreach Officer. So thank you all for being with us today. We are excited to hear what you have to share with us. So I'm going to go ahead, not waste any time. And Ryan, I'm going to kick it over to you to get things started for us. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. Got a nod. All right. So hi, I'm Lieutenant Ryann Laky. I am with the Indiana Army National Guard as the Plans and Outreach Officer for the Recruiting Battalion. A little bit of background about me specific to these SEALs. I actually had the pleasure of working with the Department of Education from around August until December of last year, physically present in their office to help build out these SEALs. So starting from, when it was just a good idea ferry floating around, and then hopefully all the way through to operation and seeing success with individual students. I'm going to see this process all the way through. And I'm still very close with the Department of Education. I call them probably every day to get answers and to work through some things. So I'm really passionate about this. I know when I was in high school, I wish I would have had this opportunity because I didn't even find out about the military until college, which I'm not from Indiana, I'm from Ohio. So don't worry, Indiana's doing great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started really to talk about the diploma comparison sheet, which most of you should have already seen. It's the two-sheeter where the last column talks about enlistment and service, and just go through each of those requirements. The first one here is completing the Introduction to Public Service course or locally created equivalent. Some of the feedback that I've gotten from a lot of counselors is, hey, this guidance is really vague. And yes, it is. It's intentionally left vague, really because there are so many opportunities, not just in this uniform, but in any public service uniform, to really showcase the different career options that are available. So as you can see here, there is a blurb that describes what is actually in the course, but the course isn't just for military, even though that's a big part. And I know we have enlistment at the top of the seal. It is also for public service. So think police, firefighting, EMS, I would argue nurses, and even counselors. I think we're all public servants, right? So I see this as a very, very broad category. Our friends from Indiana Online will cover more of the details of this Introduction to Public Service course. But as this is rolled out into schools, I would say if you come across a resource gap when implementing this course, if you need content, if you need someone to come in and become a guest speaker, reach out to the local Indiana National Guard recruiter. Not only do we have guest speakers that can come in and talk about all the career opportunities in the Guard, we also have a lot of people that wear this uniform 1 weekend a month and they're cops on the civilian side, or they are firefighters or EMS or do a million other things. So having that dual-headed nature of this uniform is great because we are very, very embedded in the community. So please reach out to us. And then one thing that I will note is Ivy Tech is also offering the Introduction to Public Service course dual credit, and they're calling it Public Service and Student Success. It's IVYT 119. There are a handful of campuses across the state that are offering it starting this summer, only in person, but they're piloting it to see how they can expand it so that it's open online as well. So lots of different options to get after this. It can be locally created. It can be through IB Tech. It can be augmented with our support. Really, it comes through engaging with the community and getting those public service elements involved. And I will tell you on the background, and we're still working through this, the Indiana National Guard is also working with the state police to kind of fill some of those gaps and get those guest speakers out and into the field. So with that, if you could go to the next slide. So as you know, JROTC, or the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, is not in every school. A lot of schools have it, but also a lot of schools don't. What I will tell you is if you would like to establish a JROTC program in your school, you can click this link, which you do have the slides, and that is the official portal where you can request through the U.S. Army Cadet Command to get a JROTC program in your school. But I don't want to make promises. You know, the Indiana National Guard, we don't control those, unfortunately. Like if I could wave my wand, I would put a JROTC program in every school, but I don't have that power. But I will say, if you need any help with that, your recruiters can definitely navigate you at least to and through the website and even the process. But again, we don't control it. So it really just depends on the size of the school and then also the number of allocations by the state. But maybe, you know, if they get a ton of requests flood from Indiana, maybe that's a sign to them like, hey, send more JROTC programs to the state. So we can keep our fingers crossed. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. So another requirement is to achieve the ASVAB score of 31. So this is more or less the baseline requirement that soldiers or airmen or sailors or insert other public service branch are required to meet for most positions. There are a handful that require a higher score, but with that, we have a program called the Career Exploration Program. And I know a lot of schools have tried this program before, but one thing that I do want to note is even though it's called the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Career Exploration Program, that is not what the career exploration is. It's actually a very cool program. It takes your aptitude, so think your reading comprehension, your analytical reasoning, your spatial reasoning, all of those very like basic and common skills that you learn as a student just by being in school, coupled with the student's interests. And it shows you a list that says, hey, you know, you're really good at math and you're also very good at medical things. Here are all the careers you can choose on the civilian side. And then, oh yeah, by the way, here's where that marries very well in the military. And then it also gives you a very detailed list of all the requirements to get there. So some might only require a certification, whereas some might require all the way up through a PhD, the full spectrum. But it gives you a lot of different options there. And actually, if you click that link, it will take you directly to the ASVAB Career Exploration website, and it explains it all there very well. We do have a career exploration program manager here in Indianapolis that services most of Indiana, with the exception of Gary and New Albany. I think those are handled out of Louisville and Chicago. But all that to say, one downside of their role is they are very short-staffed. They have one program manager and 6 proctors. So one of the things that we're looking at doing is actually training our recruiters to become proctors so that we can come to your school and proctor the test and the post-test interpretation for 3 students or 30 students or 100, right? We can keep our fingers crossed there. But okay, let's go to the next one. Yes. So meeting the attendance goal. This is kind of a carryover from the enrollment pathway. But of course, with any armed public service career, it is very important that you maintain good timeliness and accountability. And this is just one small example of that. And reading in the administrative code, the requirement is that for 1 year to have no more than 3 unexcused absences. So that's a very minor one, but it is very important. And, you know, if for whatever reason you have a student that is on the path to complete this seal, but they just can't show up to school, don't worry, talk to one of our recruiters and maybe we could talk some sense into them, right? Sometimes the uniform carries a little bit of weight, but I don't want to scare people too much or scare the students too much. All right, let's go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So this one is a very big and awesome program. This is something that I wish I would have had when I was in high school. So one of the things that we found really challenging in developing this was how do we truly showcase all of the best opportunities that exist in every public service field. And I think mentorship is really good. I think most students have a family member that's a veteran, or a family member that's a firefighter, police officer, like I said, insert any public service career field. And even if they don't, we as the Guard, we can step in and we can find those people. But it's really to marry the interests of the student specific to the mentor. So like for me, I have my master's in data analytics. I love math for whatever reason, but I also really love cooking. So if I can find someone that is super into math and analytics, but also loves food, oh my gosh, I would love to be their mentor and be like, hey, this is my career path that I took. Here's the public service work that I do now. Talk about all the marketing, et cetera. That's really the end goal, because our recruiters do have that engagement and involvement in the local communities. So to be able to find somebody that is really top tier and can work well with students, that is something that our recruiters can do. And I know one thing, and this is a note that I'll just throw in here. Sometimes people get scared by recruiters because we tend to come off as used car salesmen, which fair, some of them are. However, one of the things that we're doing internally is shaping our recruiters to be more of a resource provider, and not just to the students, but also to the schools. So as you roll out an introduction to public service course or a mentorship program, or you need mentors to fill gaps in an existing mentorship program, reach out to us and we'll be able to get that, because I will actually be taking these slides and giving them as a presentation like I am now to all of our recruiters, so that they're fully aware of what is being put out to you as counselors and educators and leaders of the next generation. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now we're getting into the requirements for the Honors Plus Seal. One thing I will toss out there, and I actually just got it in my inbox this morning, the schools are being incentivized by the number of students that complete a certain number of each type of seal, if that makes sense. As of right now, the only incentives are coming with the Plus Seal designation, not the, I don't want to call it basic honors because that's not quite basic, but the Plus Seal designation does give an extra bonus. So for this seal, for every student that achieves the honors, the Enlistment and Service Honors Plus Seal in the calendar year 26, in 27, the school will receive an $873 bonus, which I think is pretty important to know. It is about a third of what the other two Honors Plus seals are. I think it comes out to about 2,500 for the Honors Plus, but that's the only echelon of incentives so far. As they continue to collect the data and understand more about the Enlistment and Service Seal and participation in that, then they will look at expanding it to the basic honors seal, if you will. Okay, so these requirements are in addition to what we had already just talked about. So for this one, the students must complete one of the following: achieve an ASVAB score of 50 or higher. This one is a little bit difficult. Those are going to be the more high aptitude people, the more driven folks, the ones that are probably doing well in their other courses. It is not easy to achieve a 50 or higher, but what I will tell you is the National Guard actually has a program, and the contract is kicking off tomorrow? Yeah. The contract is kicking off tomorrow, where we have personal tutors across the state that can assist students both in person and virtually to help them improve their ASVAB score. And it's of no cost to the school, no cost to the student, no, hey, sign this fine line that says you will enlist or anything. It's entirely free. And we're kicking that off tomorrow. And I'm actually very excited for it, because it sounds like these educators that are tutors for this program are really driven and really excited to be able to engage with the field. But to be able to request that, work through the National Guard recruiter for your area, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But if you don't know your recruiter, we will make sure that you know your recruiter. Another one of the requirements is also, you could also achieve this requirement by enrolling in ROTC at the collegiate level. So I know that just with the way that timelines work when you're applying to colleges, sometimes it's a little bit delayed. There does have to be a more student-driven relationship to be able to show the school, hey, I want this seal on my diploma when I graduate. But look, this is also where I'm enrolling in ROTC at, right? And one of the things that I will mention too, and a lot of folks don't know this, specifically with the National Guard, if you join the National Guard and do ROTC, you won't be deployed while you're doing school, even if you don't do ROTC. So for me, I enlisted in 2016 and was able to finish my degree at Purdue. And because I was using all of my education benefits, I didn't deploy at all. So it's great. I got my college paid for. I paid for my master's. It paid for my master's. So I was able to be entirely debt-free by the time I was 26. So that's my little recruiting jab right there. I'm not a recruiter, but I am very passionate about this. And then another way to meet that requirement is acceptance to a service academy. There are a handful of folks from the state that get accepted every year, but what I will tell you is this process is very lengthy and very extensive, and it has to start realistically at their 8th grade year. I mean, there are a lot of things that go into getting accepted into a service academy, and usually it's the students that already know from a very young age that they are going to be going to West Point or the Air Force Academy, but it will still count for them if they get accepted towards this seal. They would just have to meet those other requirements as well. And with that, yep, if we could go on to the next slide. Okay, this is a ton of fun. So demonstrating excellence in leadership through one of the following. So really leadership and selfless service and physical fitness, those are all really big key components of the public service realm, not just in this uniform, but even police and firefighting. I mean, they're always lifting heavy things, right? And saving the world, right? So one of the things that we looked at was completion of at least 100 hours of public service, which that is outlined in the administrative code. That explains exactly what that is in the rule definitions. But that just shows, hey, this student is going above and beyond to really serve their community in some capacity. They have a drive to do it. Usually those are the ones that end up in the public service realms anyway, which is great. Another one that we have is holding a leadership role in a co or extracurricular activity. And that's really important. I know a lot of the folks that I serve in this uniform with were the president or vice president or social chair of some club in high school. And I think that's really important because it shows, hey, you can manage a group of people, you can see the long-term vision, you can engage and plan and insert all of the great soft skills that we don't always talk about. And then the last one, completing 2 seasons of a team-based physical sport or activity. All of this is a team sport. I'm doing it every day. I feel like at the end of the day, I've just played like 10 football games back to back, but hey, I think this is a great way to show teamwork and going for a goal that's beyond yourself. That's usually what most public service entities do. They're not there for themselves. They're there for the team. They're there for the greater good of the public. So all that to say, our National Guard recruiters are embedded in these communities, and we have access to resources that might otherwise be unknown. And we would love to show support to these schools and students. So even if, there is a student that has one of us as a mentor, and they're also the president of a club, and they're also in some sports team, we would just love to be there because it's what we do every day. Next slide, please. So I know I keep driving this. Oh, I'm going to mention here that picture on the right-hand side is actually from my deployment in Kosovo. And it was all of Indiana Guardsmen just enjoying their times there. But I keep pressing this. Reach out to your Indiana Army National Guard recruiter. Excuse me. We do have career mentorship and career counseling. We can substitute for an hour in that public service course. We have ASVAB tutoring and the career exploration program and other programs. We have a lot of different resources that we can provide. And especially when it comes to the education benefits, I didn't go into detail on all of those because I know a lot of kids really want to go to college, and sometimes it can be really expensive, or even a trade school or get a credential. A lot of times there's just so much information out there that you're like, whoa, I didn't even know that all of this existed. As counselors, I would say, talk to the recruiters. They know, and they are experts. And if you have a very specific student that has an incredibly robust dream and goal, and they don't quite know how to achieve it, we might be able to find those resources, even if they're not guard related, right? Of course, we prefer it, but that's okay. We're here to provide resources. So with that, if you could go to the next slide. If you don't know your recruiter, feel free to scan this QR code. And we will get you in touch with the local recruiter for your school. We do it based off of zip code. So as long as the zip code and the contact information is accurate, we should be good. But when you pull up this survey, you'll see just a very high level list of all of the benefits that we offer to service members and to student soldiers in any school or capacity, and especially in the state of Indiana. Indiana is very, very good to its military. But I will say, as far as our internal recruiting training, we are constantly looking to find the path to yes. So no request is outlandish. We will find a way to do it. We will make it work. Great example, I had a public affairs team come to our headquarters and we gave them a presentation all on our public affairs. So I've been talking way too much. Anyway, that concludes my brief, and I'll look at the chat for questions.
Thank you, Ryan. There are a few questions that did come up as you were presenting. I don't know, I can read them out loud and maybe you can answer a couple of them real quick before we move on. We had a couple of slides ago, the question was, when it says all three components of the career exploration program, doesn't that mean they just take the career portion of the ASVAB?
No, so that means that they actually take the ASVAB, which shows your aptitude, that spatial reasoning and analytical reasoning and all of those components that I was talking about. So you take the ASVAB, and then the next component is taking the interest. So this is like, you know, as Ryan, I am really interested in cooking. I don't love talking to people, and, you know, insert all of the things that I think it's a 100 or 150 questionnaire that are very much like personality based. Think of what you would take for like Myers-Briggs, right? So it takes two of those, your aptitude and your interest. And then the final portion of that is the post-test interpretation with a trained proctor. So as of right now, it's just that team out of Indy. But as we expand that, those are the three portions. And once all three portions are complete, there is a report that is, I guess, published by that, I don't want to say published, produced by that ASVAB Career Exploration Program portal that says, all right, we found your aptitude. We see all of your interests. Here's where they marry up. And then here is the proctor saying, yep, this makes sense. And we talked to the student about it. So it's a massive report that the students get, and that is completing that requirement. But what I will say, I know that the Department of Education has other career exploration programs that are already approved. It doesn't have to be the ASVAB one. We would prefer the ASVAB one, of course, because one thing that is missing from the others is the military component, whereas this one has both military and civilian, and it does a really good job at it. But to meet that requirement, yeah, it's very, very wide. So if there are other career portals that are already being used at schools, it's okay. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, as long as students are getting the chance to see all of their options.
Okay, great. Thank you. The question about the plus seals being the only ones that are incentivized, where is that info? We may not have that immediately in our hands. Maybe you do. I don't know, but we can look for that and share it out.
It came out last, I want to say it came out exactly a week ago. Poke around in the Department of Education's page, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe they sent them out to superintendents. But another thing that I did as soon as I got the information, I also gave it to our recruiters, and they have the actual one-sheeter that says, here are all the things kids can do in school, and here are how they're all incentivized. So as that rolls out through our recruiters, they'll have a copy of it too, and they can share that with you.
Okay, great. The question about the club, you know, the sport, you said the 2 seasons of a sport participation. Somebody asked if that could be a club instead of a sport.
Let me see. Can you go back a couple slides?
Oh, yeah, sure. Where was that? Right there?
Yeah.
2
seasons of a team-based physical sport or activity. So the leadership role in a co or extracurricular activity is more leaning towards club. And then the completion of 2 seasons of a team-based physical sport or activity. I think we're looking for sports, but if there's like a broomball club as opposed to, I don't know. I think that would be fine. There's a lot of like very specific situations that pop up as we go through these. And I would say it's either going to be on the school corporation to approve or deny that, or if it ends up being a very big thing, it might end up getting pushed up to Department of Education. But the goal behind that was really to show selfless service in the first one, some kind of leadership in the second one, and then some kind of physical activity in the third, team-based physical activity. So that's kind of the intent behind it. But I have to say, with just the way this seal is rolling out, there's probably going to be a lot of room for flexibility here, so that we can service all of the students as best we can.
Yeah. And I know the DOE mentioned at the first session that they are working on an FAQ document. So that may be one, especially if it does keep popping up, maybe that will be added to that document at some point too.
Okay, I'll find out who's making that document and I'll make sure that gets added.
Yeah. Okay. There was a question too, if students can earn more than one seal. Yes, they can, as far as I know. They can earn, yeah.
Yep, they can earn more than one. I mean, if you have those hard charging go-getters, they could theoretically get all three. I don't know when they would find time to speak, but they can.
Right. Exactly. Okay. All right. And we can keep kind of monitoring the chat for other questions, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to our Indiana Online team. So Kim,
thank you,
Melissa. Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. Thank you so much, Amanda, for inviting us to be part of this presentation. And just a special thanks to First Lieutenant Laky for just working with us prior to this. And I'm just so impressed with all of the things that the Army National Guard can support this SEAL. So just want to tell you a little bit more about our program. In case you're not familiar with Indiana Online, we are a department of the Central Indiana Educational Service Center, which means we are not a school. We are actually a nonprofit organization. We are celebrating our 20th year this year, so we've been serving the state for 20 years. We are an accredited online program. Even though we're not a school, we still are accredited. And we partner with schools. That's really important to know. So we are not here to take your students from you. We are here to partner to fill those gaps. Right now we have over 180 courses, and that number continues to grow each year. We also have our supplemental program, but then we also offer a full-time solution for grades 6 through 12. So that's just to kind of give you a highlight over that. And then I will put our website in the chat for you in case you would like to look to research more about our program. Next slide, please. I wanted to include our mission and our vision, and I won't read these to you. You can read these yourself, but I did want you to see what we're all about. So I highlighted some of the words that I really want to make sure that you see. That word collaborate, the wraparound services. Melissa's actually going to talk to you in a few moments about our wraparound services, the rigor of our courses. We are not a credit recovery program. We have rigor. They're all aligned to the Indiana state standards. And what I really want to point out is that meaningful connection piece of our mission. So we have connections with our team, but also with our highly qualified teachers, and that is to really get that student support. So that just tells you a little bit more about what we believe in. And then our vision, again, is to be that preferred partner for you. To be that leader in the state after 20 years of experience. I think we're still learning, but we do have a pretty robust program. So just wanted to share that with you. And then the next slide just really shows how our reach is throughout the state. So even though we're part of the Central Indiana Educational Service Center and we have member districts, we serve the whole state. So this map shows last year's 23-24 district enrollments throughout the state. So you can see we're everywhere in the state. There's only a few areas that we don't serve right now, but districts partner with us for many different reasons. A lot of times it is courses that are not offered at their school. It could be because they have either a few students who need a full-time virtual program, or they want to start a virtual school. They use us as their virtual program. We are gearing up for summer school, which will start in June. So many schools use us to run their online summer school program. It could be those diploma requirements. And we also serve students that are in a homebound situation, and also allows for course flexibility to help open up maybe some of their additional courses that they might need. The next slide is about our wraparound services that's part of our mission. I'm going to turn it over to Melissa to talk to you about those pieces.
Thank you, Kim. Our student services team provides many different types of wraparound services to our students and our schools. We start with a student orientation and onboarding for all of our students. We offer that even for returning students, the opportunity to meet with a specialist assigned to their school and get them going in the right direction, or ask questions and talk through what completing a course may look like. Our teacher preparation and communication, I know our teachers work diligently to connect with their students on a regular basis, but all of our courses require that students connect with their teacher before getting started with their content. So there's always that initial connection between the teacher and the student, so that they know they have someone to reach out to, even in an online format, for support and help throughout the course. And that just continues from start to finish. Each of our schools has a dedicated student success specialist that is assigned to them as a point person for all registration, but also intervention protocol. We run an intervention protocol for each of our enrollments. If we are looking at inactivity or students who are working through with pacing, that specialist will reach out and connect with not only the student, but also the guardian and even the school counselor if we need to. With that, we have a student success specialist that provides support specifically for students with accommodations. So we have a liaison between the TOR and the student and the teacher, who just helps ensure that they are getting the best experience in an online setting, tied with all of the amazing work that our instructional design team has done to put accessibility at the forefront and make sure that our courses are available to all learners. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And I'm going to tie in everything together that Kim and Melissa said. Our courses, 88% of our courses, and we have over, as Kim said, 180 courses, are created by subject matter experts who are licensed in Indiana in their certified area. They're licensed there. We use very, very little purchase content. So you know that the standards, Indiana standards, are taught in our courses. We are NCAA approved. We are on the ICAP list. My team works really, really hard to make these courses rigorous and interactive. So go ahead to the next slide. But one of the things that we are most excited about, and the first lieutenant helped with this, is we are going to be able to offer the Introduction to Public Service course starting in August. So it will be online. The registration for that will open in May. Part of our course, we have partnered with Virtual Arkansas and North Dakota Center for Distance Education. Both of those states have military pathways. So they have been able to help us with the course. I'm going to ask that the course actually also be reviewed so that they can kind of see. And I think First Lieutenant, I think I mentioned it last time. I think I probably glossed over it, but she's like, sure. And I'm like, not sure she really understood if she agreed that she was going to review the course for us. But to have that little component in there also, since she's been instrumental in this. And then next, there will be 8 pillars. So if you go to the next slide, here are the 8 pillars, or the overarching standards for the course. And we're very lucky right now to actually have the instructional designer on here. So Tanya's going to be working and has already started on the course. So these things will be included in the course. And I'll give you a moment to look at them. And then the next slide will show, I believe, just a little snippet, an introduction to the course. We're going to do more of a storyline, a storytelling through the course of having two students kind of discuss all these things as they go through the course. So not just factual information, but almost like two real life students going through and getting all the information that they need. And then the next slide. One of the things that I'm sure counselors are looking at is who can teach this? So it's quite interesting, the licensing that the DOE has come up with, you know, health, PE, and social studies. But one of the things that I really do like is that they say the public service experience is strongly preferred. So the instructor who's there, whether they have been a firefighter, police officer in the military, a veteran, one of those things that they're that they have that background. And I do think that's going to be very helpful as the instructor. And I do have an instructor in mind, Melissa. Sorry, just thought about that. And then the very last slide for me, sorry. One of the things that was discussed, and we're not sure, is that we may have we were asked for a possible mini course to help study for the ASVAB. Sounds like though the National Guard has a tutoring program that may be very, very beneficial with that. So curious if people think if that would be a course that they would be interested in, but might be already covered. Okay, I guess lastly, questions.
I'm going to go back to the tutoring mention of that. Ryan, when you shared resources on one of your last slides, does that include information about the tutoring?
So the tutoring, the way that it's currently set up, it has to be requested through a recruiter because internally we have our recruiters across the state, but what they do is they say, hey, there's a school district that has X number of kids that would like to partake in this tutoring. They'll pass it up to us, and then we distribute the resources as the requests come through. But yeah, we're kicking it off tomorrow with the contractor with the intent to have it in the recruiter's hand by Monday. So. Okay. So yeah, starting in the fall, well, I guess realistically this summer, but probably most kids don't want to study over the summertime. We'll have that open and available, and recruiters will have that as a resource. So,
okay, great, thank you. I know there were some questions too that came up in the chat. Let me look back here. One of the questions goes back to the sport question about whether it has to be a school sport, or if it could be like a community sport, like they mentioned the Y. So I don't know if that's specified in the rule or not.
I actually don't know. I'll have to pull that up and check that out, but I added that to my list of handy dandy questions that I'll be taking back. So I will find out. And then I also actually just reached out to the Department of Education to see if we can get these questions added to the frequently asked questions list. So
perfect. Thank you. And another question, how will we demonstrate and track the completion of these requirements, and will somebody from the military have to approve this seal?
Will someone from the military have to approve the seal? No. We want to, I know it's titled the Enlistment and Service Seal. We kind of want to get away, as odd as it sounds, from like that only military branding. So no, we have no hand in its approval. As far as the demonstration and tracking, it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, but I'll verify this, is that it'll be very similar to what the previous pathways were. So if they had specific achievements, they needed to demonstrate it that way, then that's how they would, I guess, complete these requirements or show completion of these requirements. I'm not sure what that looks like from the school's perspective or the student's perspective, but they don't want to deviate too much from the original, I guess, reporting tracking mechanism, if that makes sense. At least that was the intent.
Oh, and then somebody asked about travel teams, so which are more intensive than school sports. So that seems like it would count, but that'd be another good question to add to that, Vicki.
In personal opinion, I would argue that that would probably be at the school level, because I can't imagine. I mean, there's no way Department of Education would want 1 million kids and yeah, I look at this, I did the travel, like they just, it's like, nope, we got it, you did the sport, great thing. So let's, I would imagine that that's going to be at the lower level, and I don't see why it wouldn't count. I did travel sports myself, so I would hope it counts.
Yeah, knowing the time and commitment for sure. But yes, that probably will be a local decision at the school level. That'd be my assumption as well. We don't have any other questions in the chat, but we'll wait here a minute. Team, does anybody have any other thoughts or anything that you thought of that you want to share before I start kind of closing out our session today? Okay, while I do that, again, if you have a question that comes up, please feel free to add that into the chat. We do have here in this slide a link to a very short evaluation form if you want to receive a PGP point for attending our session. If you complete this, you will then receive that certificate in your email inbox. We have a few upcoming events still for this school year happening in May. So check out what we have left in our spring PD. Wanted to also mention, Keep Indiana Learning is hosting a summer conference. It's called KinnellCon. It will take place at Noblesville Middle School, and there will be some counselor content or a counselor specific strand. So if you are a counselor viewing today, then there will be some good sessions there for you. Finally, here's my contact information in case you have any follow-up questions, or if there are topics that go along with the new diplomas that you want more information on, if you want us to continue this series, add to this series, we are happy to do so. Just looking for what you feel like is needed. So please feel free to reach out if there are specific things that we could do to support you in these big changes. With that, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. So again, I want to thank all of our speakers for being with us today and for sharing your knowledge, sharing your resources. We greatly appreciate you. And I hope everybody has a great end to your school year. Take care, everybody.